Welcome back to Extra Holiday Games. I'm Extra Holiday, and I was talking about determination last time, and how it's kind of hard to find in today's world, the world of the internet, because it's so easy to find someone better than you, and how I personally tend to, when I set out to get good at something, I tend to reach a certain point and then stop because I don't feel like I'm making a whole lot of progress anymore. And ultimately what that results in is, the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. Which, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that the phrase is often cut short, and that the full phrase is jack of all trades, master of none, but still better off than the master of one. Which is to say that if you only do one thing, then you're kind of screwed if that one thing, if that one thing kind of falls out from under you, which can happen and does happen. However, when it comes to the internet, if you are that one person who's really good at that one thing, then you almost certainly have an audience, which is good for people like me who are trying to entertain people or even just be seen, If you're looking for fame, then being really good at something will get you there. I believe it was, I've probably heard it from multiple streamers, but most recently I remember hearing it from Disguised Toast, who was talking about there's two ways to be a good streamer. And that's to either be really good at whatever game you're playing or really good at whatever you're doing. It could be like IRL content or whatever. It's either to be really good at it, like just have a insane amount of skill, like say your fakers or your shrouds or stuff like that, or to be very entertaining, like say Ludwig or maybe me. So yeah, you can either be, according to Toast and potentially other streamers, if you want to succeed in that field, you either have to be really good at one thing or really good at another, actually, because being entertaining is another skill in itself. I would know, I'm trying to develop it for myself. However, who's to say whether that's actually been working? Okay, got the big one. That's neat. Won't be spawning on top of me, but I couldn't get up to the thing because I kept bouncing off of more magic Koopas. That's unfortunate. Okay. Oh well. So yeah, skill in one department. And here's the thing. It's not to say that if you are a jack of all trades that you can't succeed, right? Because sometimes just the fact that you can mix it up like that, well, I mean, part of being entertaining is being able to change up things when they get a little stale. So having multiple skills to be able to do that will help you. Right? And so that's why one of the things I've been focusing on, I was thinking about this in the shower earlier, one of the things I focus on, because I don't have a ton of viewership, I don't really focus on, as much as I complain about it, I don't really focus on how many people I have watching. What I focus on is developing skills that will help me. I did the same thing last time. That will help me to be a better entertainer, right? I'm not worried about my main objective isn't to raise the numbers currently. That's not what I focus on. What I focus on is... Oh, actually, is this why this is here? So that they'll spawn on top of it? And then... Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, as I was saying, my main objective is to... Currently, is to... just be better at what I'm doing. It's not to grow my quote-unquote fan base. I guess I have one of those, but it's a weird concept to me. It's not to grow my viewership. It's to improve my skills, because I'm like 99% certain that if I become better, if I do grow my skills, then viewership will follow eventually. I mean, there's something to be said about just being good at what you do and still not having viewership, right? The world isn't totally fair. But I mean, there are people much better at this than I am who get even less views than I do for whatever reason. But overall, I think it's important if you're trying to do what I'm doing, if you're trying to make a career out of this sort of thing, or even make a career at all. I think the important part is focusing less on how far you are towards that goal and more on what you can do to reach that goal. Right? Don't look at the numbers and be like, okay, I just need to do this for X amount of time longer, although I have actually done this, and it's actually been a bit of a motivator for me. But you shouldn't look at the numbers and be like, okay, well, if I just do this for X time, then I'll have what I need. Now, what you should be doing, IMO, is you should be going, okay, how can I get better at this? How can I do this better? Like, not where I'm at is okay, but how do I do this in a way that's more entertaining or more effective or more efficient? That sort of thing. And ultimately, I think success comes from that. Don't know that I can really speak from experience on that, but that's just me spitballing, I suppose. Yeah. It's interesting. It's just a little philosophy I find, you know. I think it's useful. And it kind of mirrors what I've heard too. Right? And hey, you know what? The best time to develop skills, right? Because, you know, to get better at something, you pretty much have to fail at it. So the best time to develop skills is when nobody is watching. Which is why I'm almost a little grateful that I don't have more viewers than I do. Because it means that there's less pressure on me to just do what I'm already good at. I mean, the more people are watching me, the less inclined I'll be to allow myself to fail. And as a result, the less... Okay, well... Did not manage to do what I was looking to do there. Speaking of failing. Yeah, so essentially, it's weird. Because not only is it that when you get bigger, you don't feel like you're growing as much, even if you're making the same amount of progress. You're gaining the same amount of skill, what have you. Yeah, well, you know what I mean. It doesn't really matter as much, or it does matter. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that not only is it that you feel like you're making less progress as you get better and better at something, but also you feel less inclined, especially if people are watching, you feel less inclined to do the riskier things, you know, the things that will actually help you improve. So there's a chance that you're actually improving less even on a static level, you know, not comparing to your overall skill level. So, yeah. I think a pretty good example of this is if you're familiar with the Games Done Quick events. They're charity events that are done by basically an organization of speedrunners. And effectively what they do is they set up a live stream where they get a bunch of speedrunners together and they just run a bunch of games, and people will donate for certain things to happen and stuff, and or just to see, or just to donate to charity. And it's cool. It's cool. But one thing I've noticed in almost every speedrun I've watched of a GDQ event, compared to just when these runners would be running the game normally, is they'll use more of what they call safety strats, which is things that take a little bit more time, but basically ensure that you're not going to lose a bunch of time. You know, so, for example, one of the safety strats I use in Mega Man X is I go for an extra, are they called E-tanks? I don't think they're called E-tanks in Mega Man X, but an extra tank of health, right, that you can use in the middle of a level. I go for an extra one of those because that last Sigma fight I still don't have quite down yet. That's one of my safety strats. And I don't know that I've actually completed a run without doing it yet. I think I might have tried one, actually. But point is, that's one of my safety strats. And if I were at a GDQ event running Mega Man X, I would probably do that, because GDQ tends to get more viewership than most of these speedrunners do on their streams normally, because, hey, a lot of speedrunners stream their speedruns when they're just, you know, doing when they're just running for fun, basically, even if they're not at GDQ. So yeah, a lot of them will use more safety strats than they normally do, right? They won't go for the risky stuff because they're on a big stage and they don't want to fail in front of everyone. Yeah. So they go for the safer routes. They pick up extra items like I would, stuff like that. And that just goes to show, you know, the more eyes you have on you, typically, the safer you're gonna play it. And there's maybe an argument to be said that that's how it should be done. But the result is also that you don't tend to improve as much when you do things that way, right? Playing it safe isn't an awful strategy inherently, but one of the drawbacks is that you don't tend to get as much benefit out of it. There is merit to the ideas of high risk, high reward, and low risk, low reward. Those ideas exist because they are actual things that happen in life, you know. And then, of course, there's low risk, high reward stuff, which is ultimately what you want to go for most. But that stuff tends to be few and far between. Although most people will, well, maybe not most people, but a lot of people will prevent themselves from doing that because, weirdly enough, because it's high reward, it will also feel like it's high risk. It's this weird thing where, like, the more you have to gain from something, the worse it feels to not get it. So even if the actual risk is not that big, like, for example, let's say, let's say you want to apply for a job, right? And it's a really good job. So you really care about whether you get this job or not. But so applying for the job is going to feel like a big deal, even if the worst thing that happens when you apply for the job is that you don't get the job, which, you know, nobody really cares, aside from you. So, yeah, and that is enough for a lot of people to just not apply in that case. Because ultimately it's this weird thing where, like, ultimately they care too much about it, so they don't want to do it because they don't feel like they could stand the loss, even if the consequences are very minor. And I can't say that I'm not the same way. I can't say that I haven't done that, like, particularly when it comes to social interactions. I tend to value not making people uncomfortable and not hurting people quite a bit, which in itself isn't a bad thing. But oftentimes what that leads to is, like, I don't want to talk to people because I feel like I'm gonna fuck it up, right? Even if the worst thing I could do is just say something a little mean, unintentionally, of course. There's still this chance that I mess it up, and for me, because I care about that so much, I'm like, I don't want to do it, so I just end up not talking to people. And again, it's not the correct move, honestly, but it's hard to get past, frankly. It's tough to overcome that feeling that, well, because I care about it, obviously the risk is super high, even when it's really not. Right? Some sort of fallacy. I don't think I know the name of that one, but it's this idea that because I care about it, it's important, or because I care about it, the effects will be dramatic. And that's not what happens. But hey, maybe it'll happen next time. Because, as for this episode, that's a wrap. I certainly hope it doesn't happen.